This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Girls Trip. Here is our reoccurring daydream. Us at a drool-worthy pool, surrounded by our business besties. We just finished a powerful exercise on building our dream lives and executing our business goals. Join us if you are ready to be celebrated for taking up space, to feel purposeful, and to live a life of fulfillment. Go to proofitspossible.com for more info. Welcome to Proof It's Possible. Jamie and I are multifaceted entrepreneurs, the founders of the Ultimate Girls Trip, and the hosts of Proof It's Possible. Jamie and I are also sisters, best friends, and complete opposites, but somehow we always manage to stay on the same team. Join us every week to hear our thoughts on all things entrepreneurship, friendship, family, pop culture, and more.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening. Today we are chatting all about our network and how it is our net worth. So this is a concept I've heard a lot. Lots of gurus talk about how your network is your net worth. And I am just curious, what are your thoughts on networking?
So I think birds of a feather. So for me, like if I hang out with smokers, I'll probably end up smoking. If I hang out with, people who work out every day and that's like their passion, I'll probably figure out a way to work out every day. I really believe that.
But for me,
anyways. Up till now, I've avoided those folks because I don't really like.
If you're wearing yoga pants, sorry, we probably can't be friends. It means you just came from the gym.
Or are you one of those people that didn't come from the gym and then you're wearing yoga pants? Then fine, that's totally fine. But if you came from the gym, but you know what I'm saying? Like people that have the common interests and we are going in the same direction as the people that we spend the most time with, whatever that looks like, whether that's negativity versus positivity, like our network of people really matters. And obviously we all have like a built-in network of family, friends, people from our past, whatever that looks like, coworkers, business partners. But what happens when you want something different and you want to grow your net worth? And I think just like all of these other areas, in order to do that, if you're hanging out with people who have never grown their net worth, don't have a clue how, they're not going to be the right people to have these like rich, in-depth conversations with, because they're going to be like, well, I don't think it's really that easy to just make more money. I don't think it's going to, if that's floating through your mind versus the conversation where people are saying things like, well, there's nothing but money in this world. So why don't I get some of it? Why can't I find a way to get my piece of the big pie out there, And so
my take on networking is like a little bit further removed than yours, I guess. You're talking about like the people in your immediate circle. But for me, when I think about networking, I think about the people that are like who I know and then who do they know?
Yes, totally.
So it's not even just like their everyday influence on me or the things that they say. It's like if I have a dream to, for instance, write a book, which I did a couple of years ago, I would have never found my book writing coach had I not met somebody who knew my book writing coach. Absolutely. I would have never met my editor had I not met my editor through my book writing coach. I would have never started this podcast without meeting Christina from Social Snippet. Like for me, it's like every dream that you have is just like one introduction away. So the more people you know, the more likely it is that you're just one introduction away from the person who's going to help you do the thing, whatever that is. So I always think that like, if my next dream is to climb Mount Everest and I then need to meet somebody who knows somebody who's climbed Mount Everest who can help me in that trek, that's absolutely never going to happen for me. But I'm just saying, like,
for obvious reasons.
But like whatever your dream is, if for instance, okay, so like 5 years ago, my dream was to write a children's story for Disney.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I'm looking at my vision board. It's like right there. And there's still little characters that I had like built for the story of my Disney movie that I kind of put that on the back burner for the for a little while, but it's not to say that it's not going to come out at some point. But very interesting. I was at my daughter's ringette and I was talking to a dad who I've talked to 1,000 times. His daughter plays on the team. And he says to me, "Oh, I'm a digital artist for Disney." We live in Canada, in a small community. Yes. It is a wild thing to meet somebody living here that works for Disney. Isn't that weird?
It's weird. And the thing is,
so strange. But I feel like had I been the mom that comes to ringette, doesn't speak to any of the parents, don't network with anybody, whether it's personal or professional. Like I didn't chit chat with him thinking he knows the secret to my next success. Absolutely. I just was like kind and, network like a normal person, or what's normal for me anyways. And it's amazing how the universe delivers the person that you need with just one simple introduction. I was like, oh my God, I forgot I had a dream that I was going to, write a book or story for Disney. And
had I struck up that same conversation and he said, I did that, I would say, well, this is really cool. I'd be totally interested to learn more about that because I think it's a cool job, but I don't have that dream. So for me, I would have just breezed by it. And then if you're lucky, I would have mentioned it to you, not remembering that you had that other dream because I had no idea. Like I remember it now that you're saying it, but I had erased it from my memory because that's the other thing. You're the only one that knows what's on your heart. So
totally,
most people are not going to be like, who I need to connect to this guy is Jamie because 14 years ago she mentioned.
But Dayle, that being said, if somebody says to me, my dream is to do whatever it is, and I know somebody that can help them on their journey, I'm always quick to be like, I know the perfect person for you. And this is the thing. We don't know who people know. So the bigger your network, the more likely it is that the people you already know, they already know somebody.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So if your network is only 3 people and you only speak to 3 people and that's it, well, the likelihood that those 3 people know the right people to get you on track for your dreams, probably pretty slim. If you talk to everybody and you network with everybody and you're chit-chatting with 100 people in a week because every time you go to the rink or your kids thing or your school or, you see somebody in the grocery store and you chit-chat with them, you've just grown and expanded your network. And you don't know who the next person to introduce you to the person is going to be. So it's like just such a good reminder that no matter where you are or what you're doing, your network matters. Meeting that and matters.
Yeah. Just a tip for networking. You can't go to the event or the hockey arena, like you said, and sit and be quiet or have the conversations that are so surface level. Like the weather's nice today. It's really cold in here. Gosh, did you see this or did you see that? Like on the news, you need to have conversations about real stuff and be curious about other people's world and their life because that like opening question to, oh, what do you do? Or, do you work from home?
This is what started it. He said, oh, I don't know if I'm going to come to that tournament. I might be in LA. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. And then your nosy ass was like,
well, what are you doing there? What's your job? I'd like the same job so that I can also go to LA. So
exactly.
Anyways, I was like, what are you doing in LA? And he's like, oh, I work for Disney. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyways, the whole moral of the story is that you have to meet people.
Yeah.
Because you're just one introduction away from the person who's going to make it all happen. And for me, like writing the book, I was one introduction away from meeting my book writing coach who led to writing my book. And then I introduced you to the book writing coach. Like it's literally like a domino effect. So I just feel like get out there and meet people.
Well, honestly. And so do you want to know what I love socializing. So for me, this definitely comes like very naturally and easily. Like I look forward to social events and I know not everybody does. But you want to know something that's funny is like you like look at your childhood and you look at your life and whatever. And dad is like the OG networker. Like I remember one time I had to go downtown with him or I like drove downtown. He worked downtown at the time and I needed him to take me just to the bank. So I like parked at his building. We were walking and I thought I was late as I always am by 5 to 10 minutes. I pushed the envelope of time. That's what I'd like to call it. And so anyways, we were rushing and dad every 10th person in a busy downtown core was like, hey, Patty, how's it going? You going to this? You going to that? And he knew about their kids. He knew about their life, his curiosity for people, and his like, lifetime in an industry where he had slowly but surely met almost everybody in this industry in our city. And like, I thought that was completely normal. I thought, well, everybody knows everybody. Where we live is not a very big city, and where I live is significantly bigger than yours. It's almost 2 million. So it's like, it is a pretty big city, but it wasn't always that big. It was, a little smaller as it grows every year. But then I met my husband, and he's like, how do you know somebody everywhere we go? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I know that person because it's my parents' friend. I know that person because my sister worked with them back when she worked as a waitress in college. I know that person because I'm from a small town, and they married somebody from a small town or from the same small town. Like, and it's just this like big snowball. And he's like, I literally know nobody. I know the people I like grew up with. I know the people I've worked with, and I have a small family, and that's it. That's all the people I know. And I was like, okay, so networking isn't a thing. But in his world, he didn't need to network as much. Like, it wasn't that kind of a life. And he lived in a rural place that didn't have like charity events, and like he it just wasn't a thing. And so it's interesting to me because I thought that this was just how life was that you eventually live somewhere and you end up knowing everybody. It's bound to happen. But it's not. It's a very guided decision, whether you're doing it or not. You can still live in a small place and speak to nobody at the hockey rink.
Well, and the interesting thing is living in like the digital age, networking can be 100% not geographical. These people can live in other countries. These people can live in other continents. Like,
yes,
you can have connections with people, like,
Well, I want to tell you a crazy story about this. So I went into COVID. I was just like a bored human. I mean, I was working, but like couldn't leave the house, hated it, needed socialization. I love to socialize. So I went into Tony Robbins did like a 3-day free whatever. So I thought, you know what, I'll jump on. And sure enough, I didn't jump on every day. I didn't stay all day because I had to work, but I jumped on once or twice. And the first time I jumped on, we got put into these little side rooms. What are those called on Zoom? Breakout rooms. So I get put into a breakout room, and I'm with a lady that the other person, there was supposed to be 3 people per breakout room, didn't end up showing up or like quit the call or something. So it just was her and I. So we had like a really in-depth conversation that you wouldn't necessarily have if there's 3 or 4 people in your breakout room. This lady happened to be in New Zealand. Not the next day. I didn't even log on whatsoever. But the day after, I logged on again for like one random hour period, and they were doing another breakout. Well, I get put in a room with the same lady. Like, and we're talking, there was, I don't know how many thousands of people on this free call.
Probably like 10,000.
Oh, at least. And so it was massive. And so anyways, I get put back in the room with the same lady. And she's like, listen, this is like some kind of special thing. We need to exchange information. Why don't we like keep in touch? So what that led to is now we have a group of 4 women one's from the United States, one's from Canada, which is me, one's from New Zealand, and one is sometimes in New Zealand, sometimes in England or France. Depends where she's traveling or what part of the year it is. And so we are literally on all four corners of the world, and we meet every single week for 2.5 years. Like,
that's crazy.
It's crazy. But there's some of my, I lean into those women because they have no emotional attachment to anything in my life. They're not, I can give you advice, but I worry about your financial situation. I worry about your kids. I worry about your relationships. I know all about you. I have all this emotion attached to you because you're my sister. So I know all the stories. These ladies are just giving me advice if I need it. And I'm giving them advice if they need it. And so networking, even in a free master call or class or whatever it was, led to friendships that I'll have forever.
Which is interesting too, because they know completely different people.
Completely different.
Like, it
Exactly.
would be very unusual for you guys to be like, oh, we both have, Jenny in common.
No,
Like
exactly.
so someone in New Zealand might have completely different contacts than
Yes.
you, and those contacts might be the one thing that you need to like do the next thing that's on your
Well, and what's
vision
so
board.
cool is I have gotten opportunities through those ladies to like speak at digital conference type things where they are online. So I end up getting to do my speech or speak at their event or whatever and see all these new people that I'm never going to be speaking
You would
that I
never
know
run
of.
into naturally.
Yeah, in New Zealand, like at a
No.
conference in New Zealand. It's cool. It's very cool. Like, and so it's the power of putting yourself out there, putting your story out there, being really authentic when you show up to anything and everything. And just,
And I will say it's not gatekeeping.
what do you mean?
Like a amazing podcast producer,
Yes.
not being like, well, she's my podcast producer. I don't want her to be the producer for everybody.
For sure.
Like that kind of gatekeeping isn't good networking. It is saying
for
her
sure.
name over and over and over again because she does a good job, and that like is putting good vibes into the world, and it's gonna help her, and she's gonna help you, and it's all reciprocal. Like I feel like the universe is such a reciprocal big entity that it's like.
Well, and like to use our podcast as an example, we did not have it on our bingo card to have a podcast ever.
No.
And then Christina from Social Snippet was like, nope, you guys need a podcast. You're getting a book. You're writing these books. You need to be on a podcast too. You need to get your, voices out there, all these things. And so we did it. And what that's brought us is a whole different like avenue of opportunity and excitement and fun and ways to get to be together, which is what we love and all these things. And then the thing about the Social Snippet is like we wouldn't have a podcast without them because I didn't know where to start. You didn't know where to start. But now you should see me in a networking situation when I do meet somebody that's got all these big dreams and they're like, you're killing it. You wrote the book. You did the thing. I'm like, but you can too. Just go. Social Snippet's available to get you a podcast.
Here's your number. I'll do the intro on Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm happy to give the intro because why wouldn't I? I want this person that I'm meeting, if their heart is in having a podcast, they should have a podcast. Or if they're feeling stuck and they need to nobody's reading their blog.
You have to remember you're the missing link to somebody else's dreams. Like
exactly.
You making that connection is helping them fulfill their dreams. So it's like kind of selfish to gatekeep it.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, and like, I will tell you, it feels very exciting when you do get to be the puzzle piece for that introduction. And next thing you know, like somebody you're cheering on is writing a book, is having a podcast, is starting the business, is doing like, you're like, oh my God, she's doing it. And it's all because I got her that one intro that made her feel like she could believe in it or that she could accomplish it or whatever. And like, I love it. I mean, honestly, I think networking is such a like underrated. I personally think it's fun. I know some people do not, but if you start changing, it's kind of like how I felt like when I started online dating, everybody's like, oh, it's a miserable world out there. I like ask myself, does it have to be? Like, I love going out on the town. So if somebody's going to like, take me out on the town, why would I make that into a bad thing? Like, do I have to marry the guy just because I went for dinner with him? No. Could I just go and make the best of every single time I try a date or whatever? And I actually had fun, even on the dates that I didn't like the guy. I made the best of it,
Yeah, exactly.
So,
anyway. Okay, well, if anybody wants an intro to anybody in my network, or Dayle's network,
exactly. Tell us.
We're happy to share all of the powerhouses in our life. So if you have a dream on your heart and you're like, hey, maybe they know somebody that can help me do X, Y, and Z, send us a message and we will, if we do know somebody, we will happily connect you or connect you to somebody who we think might know the person. Absolutely. So happy networking, everyone. Go get out of your comfort zone, do something, go to an event, join a masterclass, join a mastermind, do something that helps you grow your network.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
We are so grateful you're here.
It would mean the world to us if you'll subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and leave us a review.
If you want to hear more from us, go to proofitspossible.com to join our mailing list and find our social links so you don't miss a thing.
Thanks, and chat next time.